Live Q&A here with me, Dr. Trisha Pingle. Good morning. Can't wait to get all of you in here and start chatting today. Good morning. I'll give you guys all a minute. We're going to talk a little bit this morning before I jump into Q&A. We're going to talk about early onset cancer and aging because it's been in the news a lot. So I want to take a few minutes to talk to you guys about that and tell you a little bit more about it. I've been seeing it trending everywhere and people seem to have a lot of questions. So I thought, why don't we start with that? But I'm going to give a minute so that you can all jump in. So I am live on 4 different platforms, which means sometimes I will be looking at one camera and not the other camera. I do this so that I can answer the questions from each platform. I had someone comment on that saying, gee, she doesn't even look at the camera. This is not a produced video that's pre-recorded. I am live, meaning that I just have to go with the flow. And sometimes it freezes up and sometimes there's a question over here and sometimes over here. And I just have to run with it. So if you're looking for, crafted videos that have been edited where I'm looking right into the camera and everything, I have plenty of those. But this one is live. So if you are joining me live, love to see you. Welcome. If you're watching this as a replay, just know it was a replay of a live. So I never really know what we're going to talk about, and I never really know how it's going to go. So that's kind of the fun of it for me, actually. Hey, Naya, how are you? She is over on Facebook, in case you're wondering why I looked over there. So I've got Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn right here. And I've got Instagram over here. So unfortunately, there's not one platform that streams all effectively. So good morning. So I want to talk about an article that's been surfacing around social media and online. Hi, Jillian, how are you? Where you guys have prompted questions about it. I've had patients ask me about it, and it's about some of the early onset cancer that they were finding from some recent studies. The headlines basically say early onset cancer, faster biological aging may be driving rates in young adults. And what prompted this is when they were doing analysis with the cancer, when they looked at the cancer statistics 2024 release, they were showing that early onset cancer in 29 cancers had increased of almost 80%. So early onset meaning under age 50. Okay. So people under age 50 are supposedly getting cancer at almost an 80% higher rate over the last 20 years. So starting in 1990 until 2019. I do want to note, because I've talked about this a lot, do you guys have any idea when cell phones came of use and the internet? Right around that time, 1990-ish. I think by 1994, we had the phones in the cars, and definitely by 2000, we had them in our hands and our pockets and whatnot. So there was quite a growth in the technology arena around that time, which is what makes it very interesting to me as we move forward with having all this technology and now having social media and everything at our fingertips. And you guys know, I talk about this all the time. Everyone says, hey, what can I do for this? What can I do for that? How can I prevent this or that? And stress is always in my answer. And it's not recognized enough. So this study was really interesting to me because when they started looking at it, they said, well, they looked at biological markers in a group of people that had early onset cancer. There were some blood proteins like albumin, blood enzyme to break down proteins, alkaline phosphatase, creatine to check the kidneys, C-reactive protein to check inflammation, which is one that we talk about a lot here in these lives. Some different, obviously glucose, so blood sugar, and then different variations in the red and white blood cells, okay? And they found that those that had the earlier onset cancer tend to have a lot of these markers that are out of whack, right? So when you look at those particular markers, what they're saying is that that's showing that someone's biological age is older than their chronological age. So you may be 30, but your biological age may be 60. Okay. So your biological age is the age of your cells. Your chronological age is your birthday, right? Is how old you are. So they're saying that people who have a higher biological age are more prone to cancer, right? That would make sense. Before, it was our physical age kind of aligned with our biological age, not anymore, right? So they come down and they say they found that those that had higher biological ages had a 42% increase in lung cancer, 22% increase in GI cancer, and 33% increase in uterine cancer. right? So what was interesting to me, right, is they were saying, well, every physician should run these 9 tests. And they're right. I mean, if your physician isn't running blood sugar and liver enzymes and kidney enzymes and C reactive protein and blood counts, then you need a new doctor. I mean, we've been running these labs forever. So I don't think that's particularly new, but I do think it's great that they called it out in the article. But then the part that's really interesting that I want to chat about is they said, can you slow this down? Can you change your biological age? What do you guys think? So I'm chronologically 48 years old. When I do all the, the silly little calculators they've pulled out and whatnot, biological age is around 33, right? Can you change that? Of course you can, right? So they noted that of this group, almost half of them were related to lifestyle factors. And the lifestyle factors were obesity, sedentary lifestyle, and to me, those kind of go hand in hand, smoking, alcohol, lack of exercise, which by the way is the same as a sedentary lifestyle. And the last one got me really excited, stress-related factors. Yes, stress ages you. Want to know what to do about wrinkles? You have to look at adrenal function. Want to know what to do about gray hair and gaining weight around the abdomen and feeling older than you are? You have to look at stress, guys. You have to. Because what we tend to do is we tend to focus on just the weight. And granted, obesity is listed, okay? Losing weight does help, but so is twice, mind you, sedentary lifestyle and lack of exercise. So if you're just losing the weight, but you're not incorporating the movement, you're not incorporating the mindset, the stress reduction, the ways to calm the body so it can heal and age, the losing weight won't do much, okay? And then they put at the end, can you tell I'm excited? Today, social media drives people's behavior, including eating habits and less exercise. All free time is spent on the screen, in addition to emotional exhaustion, which is their way of saying stress, from consistently chasing a virtual, quote, world. Now, in the beginning, what changed in the 90s? Internet. What did we start to create in the 90s? A virtual world. We've continued to add on that and add on that and add on that, right? And not only is that causing stress in general, just from trying to keep up with the Joneses all the time, it's putting us in front of a screen more, which is also giving us less exercise, right? You're looking at these markers. We have higher incidence of diabetes. We have higher incidence of heart disease. We have higher incidence of inflammation. Our food is crap. We eat crap, right? So people say, what can I do? What can I test? How can I prevent the onset of cancer? And my number one answer will still continue to be, from here on out for the rest of my life, address the stress response. What does a stressed out person look like? Does anyone know anymore? I think it's become so normalized that if I asked each and every one of you, are you stressed out? You'd be like, oh, just normal stuff, right? Do you feel anxious all the time? Do you always feel like there's something you're missing? Do you reach to check your phone even when it's not buzzing? Do you feel like if you disconnect for a weekend, you can't leave your phone at home? What if you drive to the mall to pick something up and you leave your phone at home? Does it freak you out? These are things that we have to think about because these are stress. We have created a little monster within ourselves that we have to start focusing on, right? Because not only are we having the lack of exercise, which, by the way, a sedentary lifestyle is very stressful on the body. We were born to move. We were given the muscles to move. We were given the bones to move. We were given the ability to walk upright, right? We have an obligation to our body to keep moving it, right? That is we were built to move. We were not built to sit, unfortunately. And so the more and more we're sitting, the more weight that's put on the body, the more markers that get out of balance. Guess what, guys? It's not just those markers being out of balance. Guess what? Causes more stress on the body. So no matter how you look at it, you could argue it from 1,000 different directions. Stress is always involved. Every single time. And I know I get up here and I say, you guys, pay attention to your adrenals, and everything you ask, I'm like, well, are you paying attention to your adrenals? It's hard for people to understand how important adrenal gland function is and the response to stress, because it's not something that's tangible, right? It can show up in so many different ways. It can show up as bloating. It can show up as muscle pain. It can show up as fatigue. It can show up as headaches. It can show up as hair loss, right? I always see it showing up with a little bit of anxiety and overwhelm. And I don't know a single person out there right now that doesn't have some level of that, particularly parents, right? Some level of like myself included. I mean, and I'm an adrenal fatigue doctor. Like that's what I do, right? And I still have to catch myself saying, whoa, hey, this is out of your control. You got to back off. You got to put your phone down. You got to walk away from the technology and take a break, right? I catch myself saying that. So was that a good opening? Have you guys read that? Have you been wondering? So how do you reduce your biological age? You put in good nutrition, you start moving, and you address that mindset. You address that stress. And people will say, oh, you can't control stress, but that's actually a lie. You can. You can absolutely control it. Control it in various ways. Some stress is okay on our body. All stress is not. Chronic stress is not. And we actually do control how we interpret that, because the brain is the one that interprets the stress, the fear, to trigger the adrenal glands. So yeah, you can support the adrenal glands, and I highly recommend you do, but you also have to support the brain and you have to support the microbiome. What was interesting, and then I'll move on to Q&A, is at the end of the article, they said, we believe the future of medicine is really looking beyond this into the microbiome and into some other things, other lifestyle factors outside of just food and exercise. And they're right. Because if you have a fear response, if you were constantly running from a bear, if you were in fight or flight all the time, one, you're going to adapt to it so you don't really notice. And then you don't think you have stress, but you do, right? And two, it's going to have a direct impact on your microbiome. And a bad microbiome from poor food choices or whatever is going to have a direct impact on your brain, which is going to have a direct impact on, guess what, your adrenal glands. So for those of you that are like, why does she keep hammering me with this adrenal dysfunction and this adrenal fatigue? What is she talking about? This is what I'm talking about. You can only get so far until you address it. You have to. And I'm one of those people that powered through and thought, no, I'll be fine. Mindset, meditation, whatever, right? Got to do it. Piggy snoring. Can you see her? Piggy, wake up, Piggy. She's on the couch back there. Anyway, let me see what the comments were with that. And then let's open it up to a Q&A. But I would love to have more conversation about this in biological age. I think it's very, what can you do about it? Is there a supplement? Adrenal fatigue? It's a four-pronged approach: nutrition, exercise, supplement, and mindset. And all of my programs, my book, I have a book, Total Health Turnaround. It talks about, this is a great introductory material. If you're like, adrenal fatigue, what the heck? Start here. This is a great starting point. I think it's like $23 or something. It's not a huge investment. But this is a great place to start. You can also check out my YouTube channels, my feed. I talk about it quite a bit. I come here for the lives and talk about it. But any of my online programs, any of my one-on-one clients, this is what we have to, we can only get so far, right? And there's a point where you really have to start looking at the internal stressors. So we can manage the external stressors, like how we interpret them coming in, but then we also have to address all the imbalances that have happened from the past, right? Blood sugars, hormones, inflammation markers, kidney function, liver function, previous toxins, things like that. They continue an internal stress cycle. So there's two different types of stress: external and internal. Okay. The body doesn't know the difference. It just knows it's not happy. It's in a nervous state. Its nervous systems are hyperactive, right? Overstimulated. We are overstimulated. And does anyone think we're not overstimulated? We are. Let's say that you wake up with a headache and you Google, what are the causes of headache? What's the first thing that freaking pops up? Oh, you have a tumor. Great. Or you could simply just be dehydrated. Like everything is like, and then we start getting all this stuff downloading into our brain. We're like, oh my God, what if it's this? Oh my God, what if it's this? Oh my God. Does anyone else do that? Dr. Google? There's some valuable information when it's handled correctly, but when you get it on a nervous brain or an anxious brain, it does not happen well. All of a sudden you're dying, right? So we need to start to have a little bit of perspective on what we want to allow in and what we don't. Media stories. For example, when I saw the headline, I was like, well, I better read that, because the headline does not always match the content of the article. It's called a bait and switch, fairly regular on social media. In fact, probably the most common form of media now is a bait and switch. They say something, they expect you're not going to read the article, so they expect you to just take it as face value, right? Although there's always disclaimers at the bottom that say this is not factual, or this was extrapolated, or this was not based on any studies, or whatever, this is very rare or whatever. But we miss that part because we're running from a bear. So we only see the big things, right? So if you're in the woods and you're running from a bear, right? You might somewhat know where you're going, but you don't know like what tree it was you ran by. Like you don't know if it was a maple or a whatever. Like you just see the destination, right? So that's what they try to do, right? Give you the destination so you lock into that, but you forget all the details surrounding it, right? So I think we need to just realize that we're in an environment like that. We can't really change the environment, but we can change the way that we look at the environment, the way that we interpret the environment, and we can slow down. Not everything is a bear. I created a lot of bears for a very long time. I guess I still do occasionally, not as much, but I created a lot that really weren't bears. They were completely out of my control. Like, I should have just thought it was a little cub or something. Anyway, I eat clean and work out. Awesome. Are you looking at the mindset, right? Are you looking at the mindset? Are you looking at the proper supplementation for you, right? Getting a full lab workup, working with someone to really say, how can I now optimize my health level? I already eat clean and work out. In fact, the majority of my one-on-one clients are generally coming to me fairly healthy, but that doesn't mean that they don't have symptoms. That's actually why they come to me. They're like, dude, I'm fairly healthy. My labs look pretty good. I eat right. I exercise, but I'm completely exhausted, or I have headaches every day, or, I can't figure out why I feel this way. I don't feel right. Right. And every doctor's telling them they're great. They're normal. They're healthy. And my question is, are they? Right? Are they really getting a good investigation of what's going on? Are they really optimizing their health? And are they looking at the thing that no doctor can fix? And that is stress response. There's no pill for stress response. The pill for stress response comes from in here, from you. So do you need to be given tools to know how to access that? Of course. And that's what I do, right? I give tools, tell you how to do it, help you recognize it. That's one of the first things I do, is help people recognize how often they are actually running from a bear, because most of the time it's just so normalized now, you don't even recognize it, right? It was funny. I did, though, and I gave the example of the mall. I actually went to the mall to pick something up the other day, and I got in the mall and I went to go pay with Apple Pay and realized I didn't have my phone. And I was like, oh my God, did I drop it? And I'm walking back to my car and I'm like, oh, I hope I didn't drop my phone. I left it at home. Why did I care? I was just going to the mall to pick something up. I didn't need my phone. I had a credit card, right? But I caught myself for a second going, oh. And I was like, why am I reacting? It's just a phone. And I actually sat in my car and said, Trisha, it's like, what's the big deal? Do you need to call someone right now? Like, what's the big deal? Just finish your stuff, go get a cup of coffee, enjoy the silence, and then go home. But it's funny. We do forget that, right? All right, on Facebook here, let's see. Catch up on questions. All right, we absolutely can control our biological age. We can indeed. My chronological age will change in about 6 weeks. Hopefully my biological age does not. Steve says, we are seeing a major surge in non-alcoholic beverage sales, especially in the spirits category. Curious, does anyone have a favorite? You know what I do instead of alcohol typically is I'll do kombucha. I'll do sparkling water all the time. I really like Spindrift. But sometimes I'll do like Spindrift with lime and I'll put it in a wine glass. Sometimes I'll do kombucha. I have tried the Euphorics line of non-alcoholic spirits or whatever. They're kind of pricey. I mean, I know they say they have L-theanine in them and they have kava in them and things like that. I wouldn't think they would have a therapeutic dose, but the price kind of says they do. So I don't do those very often. I didn't mind the taste of those, but I didn't find them any different than me just having kombucha or sparkling water. But their flavor's kind of cool. Just look for what they flavor it with, Steve. Like, make sure you're not taking a bunch of random sugars and junk into your body, because that would be doing the same as alcohol, right? What does alcohol do? It gives you a toxin, right, that you have to metabolize out. What does soda do? Toxin, have to metabolize out. So if you're replacing it with a drink that still gives you toxin, you're not really doing your body any favors, right? So look at something clean. We actually have a soda stream machine with a glass bottle. We have the one called the Penguin. There's some that use a plastic bottle, and I don't know anything about the plastic bottles and those if they're BPA free. Like, I don't know, because we have the glass one, but it has a glass bottle, and we just fill it with filtered water, and we carbonate it. We make our own sparkling water. And then we'll just put lime or raspberries or something in the bottom. And the kids do it way easy, way cheaper, and put it in a fun glass, put an umbrella in it if you want to. Does that make sense? It is so important to listen to our own bodies. Very true, Naya. Good morning, Abe. How are you? Happy Friday. Hi, Cindy. Shauna, how to change the subconscious bear? I wake up anxious. Yeah. So changing that subconscious bear is a lot of work. And a lot of people aren't so sure that they have the time, right? And some of the exercises that I tell people to do really only take about 1 minute. But you may want to do them maybe 1 minute every hour while you're awake, which is 8 minutes total per day. I would argue that most people have 8 minutes. If you don't, it's probably because you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, like watching a 30-minute TV show. Okay, we'll take 8 minutes of that. Take 1 minute every hour throughout your day to do some sort of exercise. And this exercise is more mindset. It has to do with journaling. It has to do with reframing. It has to do with really diving deep into where that fear came from. Now, I have stuff for you guys on this. I actually have a program, a self-led program coming out. It might even be, well, today's Friday, so it's probably going to be next week. I do have it being released to some people to try it out right now, but it's 30 days to calm and connected and reducing anxiety. It is inexpensive. It is self-led. It is just these little exercises that I have you do every single day to help you start to calm your mind. So if that's something you're interested in, send a DM and say, I'm interested in the new anxiety program. And my team can reach out to you and they can tell you all the details, when it's available. Like I said, it's online. There's no live component. It's low price point. The goal is just to give you 30 days of things to do every single day. So put it in a DM. So when this live is over or whatever, go to your DM, send a DM to me that says, yes, tell me about the total anxiety turnaround program, or tell me about the anxiety program. And I will have my team reach out to you. Now, they don't work on the weekends, so it's probably going to be early next week sometime, but we'll either send an email or give you a call. Let us know how to contact you. I mean, we can reach out to you through DM as well. So we can write you back via DM with a link or any information, but send a note over. Happy to include you guys in that. And I'd love your take, because this is practice. Okay. This is, I don't know, my Autobot sent a holiday stress tip. Sorry, Michelle, I'll be right there in just a second. I see that. You guys can start to address that. But to answer your question, it really is just, it's a commitment to yourself to retrain your brain. And then once you do that, it makes it so much easier for someone like me to go in, run the labs, see where the other imbalances are, start to clean things up, start to support stress. Those types of things start to happen when you get that mindset in line. Does that help, Shauna? But if you want to hear about that, DM me, okay? It's coming. Like it's done. Like I finished it. It's done. So now it's just all the little logistics of it, like creating the invoice and making sure it works correctly and those types of things, which we were doing yesterday. So I think we're okay. Naya says, I love putting kombucha in a wine glass. Me too. Me too. And there's all sorts of different flavors now. Are there any natural remedies for dry eyes? Okay. So natural remedies for dry eyes, it depends on why the dry eye is happening. So there are autoimmune conditions that cause dry eyes, right? Sometimes you're wearing contacts that causes dry eyes, but there's also things like dehydration, looking at kidney function. Are there toxins in the body? When you look at traditional Chinese medicine, when you look at TCM medicine, the adrenals are the eyes. So if you have dry eyes, they would say, well, you have too much stress. It's a stress related response. So I think the first thing to figure out is, why are the dry eyes happening? And then you know what natural remedies to use. As far as like a natural eye drop, I'm not aware of one. I have very dry eyes because I wear contacts, and it just is what it is. When I don't wear my contacts, my eyes are fine. When I wear my contacts, they dry out. So I actually have to be very mindful about, using drops throughout the day. But yeah, figure out why. Is it a disease faced? Is it a functional thing? Or is it simply stress and the eyes are struggling through that meridian, as they would say? Sometimes acupuncture can help quite a bit with that if you determine that's what it is as well. Let's see, make sure I'm not getting too behind on questions. Okay. Sandra, give me a minute on Instagram. I'm going to wrap up over here on Facebook and then I'll pop over to you. Okay. Michelle. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Good to meet you. Join the program. Yes. I know we will get to this, but what are some tips to improve sleep I could implement immediately that could help with sleep? Some of the things, and I do have a ton of information on this. If you have my book, I do have some things in there. Once again, it comes down to, is the sleep because of a cortisol response? So is it a worry response? Are you not falling asleep or not sleeping well because your body's going, bing, there's a bear, right? In that case, you're looking at things that calm adrenal function, something like my total stress support, which is a supplement that I carry that has, and you'll read about all this, in my program and working with me and stuff, but there's, it has like L-theanine, phosphatidylserine, has a bunch of herbs that help calm the cortisol response at night so that you can sleep. Okay. So if we're looking at some sort of adrenal aspect of it, that's a place we have to start. Now, granted, if that's there might be other imbalances that's causing it as well. Could be throwing off serotonin levels, could be throwing off melatonin levels, could be throwing out liver problems in the middle of the night, particularly if you wake up around 2 or 3 a.m. So there's some other things you can do in conjunction with that. I would say to start, always start by giving nutrition to your adrenal glands, right? Give nutrition to your body so that your body can do what it needs. If you look at totalhealthapothecary.com, which is my private supplement line, all of those supplements there are indicated for a body that has some sort of level of cortisol dysfunction. So vitamin C, vitamin B, total stress support, magnesium, right? Minerals, probiotics, these types of things will help hold the body stable while we figure that out. My book does talk more about this. With you being in programs of mine, you will absolutely learn more about it. And then you'll get the basics from that. I think even in my book, I talk about like valerian and passiflora as well. I'm pretty certain I do somewhere. Chapter 12, I think, talks about L-theanine, talks about lavender, passiflora, rhodiola, which I wouldn't necessarily use for sleep, although it is good for sleep. I wouldn't use it at night, though. I'd use it probably during the day. Shashandra berry, phosphatidylserine. Yeah. So you would not use ginseng at night. Ginseng's a morning herb, but ashwaganda, passiflora, valerian, phosphatidylserine, and you'll see a lot of these in my supplements as a blend. So this would be a great place to start reading about those for simple. If it's still not working, that's because we need to do a deep dive. And when we do a deep dive and we look at labs and we talk to each other and we get to really customize to you, then we'll find it. But those are the generalized, like, what do we try first to see if we can get some relief? Sleep is a tough one. If it's been like that for a long period of time, it can take some time to change, but it will change. And it has to change because it has to change for your body to repair, right? That's how we lower our biological age. We have to sleep. Right. And so if any of you, when I said earlier, what are some signs that the adrenals are impacted? And I said anxiousness, sleep is another one. If you're not getting good, solid sleep, can I diverse for a second? This morning, many of you who've been following me for a while know my story. Many of you who are new, maybe don't, but my family has all passed. I mean, my husband and my children are here, but anyone beyond has passed, and they passed young. And a lot of the reasons I went into healthcare was because of that. And my dad died when I was 24 of a stroke. Of course, his cardiologist had told him 2 months previous that all his numbers were great. He could go another year. See you next year. You'll be totally fine. Your cholesterol's great. Your blood pressure's great, with medication, mind you. Nobody checked his inflammatory marker. Oh, you'll be good. And then he passes of a stroke, right? So one of the places that I guess I could say meet with my parents nowadays is in my sleep. And when I restored my adrenal function and I was able to sleep again, my parents started visiting me in my sleep. When I was really stressed out and I wasn't sleeping well, I didn't dream, right? I didn't have those dreams. And I felt very lost and lonely because I felt very disconnected, not only with the people in my life, but also the people that had passed on. I felt like, wow, they don't visit me anymore. Like, where are they? I don't feel them anymore. And that's a sign of adrenal dysfunction because it's a sign of depression, right? You're so disconnected from the people, you know, that you were connected with. And so last night, or actually this morning, I was having a dream and I was at some sort of event, and a couple people that I grew up with, some ladies I grew up with, a pair of twins, if you're out there, you know who you are, were in my dream and came to sit with me to watch this event. And in walked my dad with my uncle, who is still, his brother is still living. And oddly enough, my uncle looked his current age, which is in his 70s. My dad looked like he was 30. I mean, it was amazing. And they sat down next to me and I was having this full conversation with my dad. And I said, oh my gosh, I want to introduce you to a friend before you go. I know you're going to go in a minute. You only have so much time. I really want to introduce you to this friend. And I grabbed his hand and I started walking and I woke up. And I was like, oh. It's like I knew in my head I was waking up and I knew I had to hurry to go introduce him to whoever I wanted to introduce him. And I was going to introduce him to a friend that's in my life now, not back then. And I woke up and I thought, God, how awesome is that? Like, I just totally had a full conversation with my dad and spent time with him. I felt him. I feel like I visited with him. And I'm so thankful that I have the sleep to be able to do that, because for so long I couldn't. So why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this because it will get better. You will get there. If you commit to yourself and you commit to all the steps and you do what you have to do to help bring yourself back to yourself and commit to yourself and connect to yourself, you will actually get better sleep. So Michelle's adding on there, waking up around 1:32 and not able to fall back asleep, toss and turn a lot, have music in your brain I can't turn off. Okay, cool. I love that you have music, but that's kind of annoying at 2 a.m. Check out in my book, Passiflora would be a good option for that, and potentially valerian as well. But Passiflora is very indicated for people with a busy mind at 2 a.m. Okay, start there. As you go through the program, Michelle, will be great to get to know you, and we'll customize things as we go. Okay, sweetheart? Thank you. All right, I got to catch up on Instagram. You guys are now throwing stuff at me, so let's do this. All right. Hi, Sandra. My daughter spiked a fever of 105.5. Ooh, and she tested positive for strep. They placed her on antibiotics for the first time. I'm concerned about her gut. Any help for her gut? Are antibiotics a must? So here's the thing with strep throat. It can cause a lot of problems if it's not taken care of. Now, not to say I haven't treated strep throat without antibiotics. I have, but I can never give that sort of advice over social media because it could be very dangerous if you don't have someone monitoring, okay? So in this case, that's a pretty high fever. That's a pretty bad infection. I don't know how old your daughter is, but so be it. On the antibiotics, cool. So I don't know her age. I don't know her health history. So dosing you might have to play with, but you definitely want to be doing a good solid dose of probiotics for at least 2 weeks after. So like double her normal dose, triple her normal dose, typically over the course of 2 weeks post antibiotic, and then move into regular dosing of probiotics for as long as possible. Okay. Now, what is that in children? I'm not a pediatrician. The quality of the probiotic is probably more important than the number. But if you can get a high quality probiotic, I would definitely do that. Right. And then the other thing to do is seek out a functional medicine or naturopathic doctor to prevent this in the future, because there are herbs you can use. And once again, not knowing her health history and her age, I can't blurt them out right here legally. I have a lot of articles on this. You can check out at drfingal.com, do some searching. You might find some interesting things, but I can't state it exactly what to do. But there are things that can be done if you catch it earlier infection, and things you can be done moving forward to take care of that without having to use antibiotics. Okay. What can you do for reflux? Okay. This is a great question. I want you to first think about why reflux happens. Most people think it's because you have too much acid. I'd like to argue that's actually not the case. You actually probably have too little acid. What? What? Dr. P, you make no sense. So when we eat, we chew food, goes down our esophagus, lands in our stomach, and we release acid to break the food down. Okay? We only release acid if we're in a rest or digest state. So if you're running from a bear, your acid is going to be withheld. Right? It's just going to sit there. Right? Anyone eat and feel like they still have food in their stomach a half an hour later? Anyone? I'm raising my hand because I used to be that way. Not anymore, but right? That means you're not breaking it down. Okay? You have to be in a restful state to break food down. Any of you drive in your car and eat while you're thinking about other things, or work while you eat, have your mind working as while you eat? Bad idea, because you're in a fight or flight state. You're not going to digest that food. Okay. So number one. Number two, you do have to have, other enzymes coming out as well, which are downregulated by stress internally or externally. So often what happens is the food sits there, and there's a little trap door on top of the stomach. And because the food is sitting there, it's pushing up. Let's say you start walking or you move around or whatever, and it opens this little flap and little bits of acid come up into the esophagus. So I find that's more commonly the reason for GERD. I actually have an article on this at drpingle.com. I think if you search GERD, GERD, you will find it. I also have it in my feed on Instagram. Okay, Jillian. One of the most important things you have to do is re-support that digestive function. And often that means adding acids and digestive enzymes to help you break down your food. You also have to be addressing the stress. Okay. Now, if you are one of the few people that maybe have a hiatal hernia that's pushing up on the stomach, that's another reason you could have GERD. That's a physical issue. So in that case, you either have to have it adjusted or you have to have surgery on it, right? So make sure you don't have a hiatal hernia. There is a very small percentage of people, and it's literally like less than 2%, that actually physiologically produce too much acid. But the majority of the reflux cases, 98% of them, are typically too little acid, not too much acid. You can test this by trying apple cider vinegar and seeing if it burns or if it makes it feel better. I hope that helps. Check out the article, okay? Hi there. Hi, color me words, color my words. Hello, good morning. For those of you over here, I'm talking Instagram for a minute. Sorry to look away. It's just two different cameras. Okay. I was wondering if slippery elm would be good for SIBO or if it feeds the bad bacteria. Well, slippery elm, I don't use to impact the bacterial levels. I use slippery elm in conjunction with a bunch of other herbs to heal up a leaky gut, like using it in blends with glutamine, marshmallow root, zinc, and using it very strategically to heal up the gut. So will it feed SIBO? I suppose it would depend on what bug you have, right? Because bugs eat different things. Did you guys know if you take a full carnivore and you take a full plant-based person and you compare their microbiomes, they're actually different? Because plants feed some bugs and meat feeds others, which goes with the argument that people should have a variety of diet because it feeds a bunch of different bugs, right? Crazy, right? So it would depend on the bug. But I typically wouldn't use it necessarily in SIBO for the SIBO. I would use it more for the healing of the leaky gut in conjunction with other herbs. Now, does it work well on its own? Yeah, it's fabulous. I mean, almost is a fantastic herb. But I usually don't use it alone. In fact, most of my herbal therapies that I put together are not used solo. They're used in combination because they're each addressing a different mechanism of action, right? And they're working together to repair the entire being rather than just part of it, right? So you can think of slippery elm like something that goes along and coats the intestine to just kind of make it go, that's kind of what it does. Are labs typically covered by insurance? Many labs are, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the ones that we talked about earlier, we were talking about albumin and CBC and creatinine and high sensitivity CRP, absolutely. Yeah. Quest, LabCorp. The only ones that typically aren't are some of the like really detailed functional tests. So if we're doing like a really detailed stool test or, nutritional testing and things like that, those are often out of pocket, but you can get a lot of information from your standard labs. And yes, they should run through your insurance. Whether or not your insurance finds them medically necessary is a whole nother level of argument that I just don't get involved with, because I can't keep up. I took insurance for a while when I first came out in practice, and was great for the patients because they could see me at a low cost, but was actually hindering them in some respects, because some of the things that I wanted to run and some of the things that I wanted to look at that would really have leveled up their healthcare, their insurance wouldn't cover. And so ultimately, even though they paid less out of pocket, they didn't heal as quickly or get as many results as the people that didn't, right? But I use insurance whenever I can, just to save costs to people, because why wouldn't I? I'm not trying to make money off labs. I just want to get the answer, any recommendations for constipation and bloating? Yeah. Magnesium, vitamin C is the first starting point. I have a constipation protocol, and I will send it to you for free if you order the constipation bundle from Total Health Apothecary. So go to my link in bio, click on pooping bundle. I think it is. I think it's called the pooping bundle. And it's the supplements that I would typically recommend for that as a starting point. And then I'll send you digitally a document with the instructions for that. If you're in some of my programs, you might already have that document. I had to write myself a note. Okay, how much time do I have? Okay, I got to wrap it up, but I do see more questions, and I know I kind of spent more time on Facebook, so let me catch up over here, and then we'll catch up. Thank you for sharing your dream story. I love this. Oh, thank you. I miss my dad. He doesn't visit me as often as my mom. My mom visits me all the time. My grandparents, sometimes they'll peek in, but my dad, I don't know. I mean, he's been gone a long time. He's probably very happy up there, not really worried about me anymore. But what was weird was that he looked young and my uncle looked his age now. That was what really got me. I was like, wow, dad doesn't have any gray hairs. That's weird. Can those adaptogenic herbs lose effectiveness over time? I had amazing relief after taking ashwagandha, but by the time I finished the bottle, I did not experience the same relief I did initially. Yeah, they can, because it's only addressing part of the problem, right? So if you're doing adaptogenic herbs to adapt to stress, that's great, but you also have to address the stress, right? That's why I do it in 4 areas. It's not just supplement. The supplement will compound and help with what you're trying to change physiologically, but you still have to physiologically change the way that you adapt to stress. Otherwise, your stress level is going to adapt above the ashwagandha, if that makes sense. So if you're in the woods and you see a bear and you used to be able to run 20 miles an hour, but now he catches you at 20 miles an hour, you're going to adapt and run 25 miles an hour, right? So the ashwagandha slowed him down a little bit, and then he figured it out. And he was like, oh, yeah. Okay, you're going to take ashwagandha. I'm going to come at you in a different way. I'm going to come at a different time of day, right? So you may find some time lapses changing when you start to take adaptogenic herbs. Like you used to be awake at 2 a.m. and now you're awake at midnight, right? Because the body's adapting to that. But you also have to do the mindset work. You have to, guys. It's I'm sorry, it sucks, but you have to. It just is what it is, It's just part of it. Kelly, I see, tested positive for MTHFR. Want to thank you for bringing that to my attention. I had to convince my gynecologist to test me, and she did, and they found it. Nice. First of all, way to be your own advocate. Way to take education that you learned from me and go to your doctor and put your foot down and get what you need. You just made my day. That's awesome, Kelly. And you can do something about it. So don't stress it. It's fine. Like you'll be fine. I have MTHFR. My biological age is like 15 years younger than mine. So there you go. Right. It'll be okay. All right. Okay. I got to catch up, man, guys. And I got to get out of here. Suggestions for parasite removal and maintenance. Yeah, there's a wide variety of things you can do. I offer a protocol for my concierge clients. I don't know if I'll offer it to the public. I may. It's very possible I will. So stand by. But at the moment, it's my concierge, where it's a 4-step prong removal, where you have to open up all the drainage pathways first. Then you cleanse parasites. Then you cleanse more deeply into the liver, the lungs, the uterus, the brain, all those types of things. And then you do a cleanup. In those types of things, it's a longer process. I have not found the parasite cleanses where you just do them for 7 days and whatever to be overly effective. I think it has to be part of a comprehensive plan. And I think knowing where to start in your health is really important. What works for someone at where they are may not work for where you are, but maybe a year from now, what they do will work great for you, right? So you really have to have an understanding of where you are in that health continuum, what your problems are, what's related to each, like what's the order of the domino, and attack the outermost first. So I'll end with this. One of the ways I explain this in my practice is it's kind of like an onion. Health's like an onion, and you have all these layers of things that have happened or adapted over time. And so the thing that's the most obvious is the layer on the outside, because that's all your symptoms. Now, sometimes those symptoms are not due to just an outside layer. Often they're rooted way down in the core. So what you do is you just start and you peel one layer at a time. And as the layer comes off, you see, does the symptom go away? Does it stay? And usually you'll find some symptoms fall off and you'll see others persist. And then you start to be able to put a map together on, oh, okay, this has been here for 20 years. This is not new. It just needs to be rebuilt. We have to come at it from a different way. So that's kind of how I look at health, is we have to do this in a stage-wise fashion, and we have to support it holistically. It's never as simple as, what can I take for that? Ever. So thank you to all of you that joined for the first time today. Welcome. I'm here every Friday as best as I can be. Happy to answer questions. If you are interested in the program info that I talked about, go ahead and send me a DM, and I'll have my team, probably Angela, reach out to you next week, tell you more about it. Yeah, good to see you all. Have a great day. I'm off to enjoy this beautiful Arizona weather. Take care, guys.